Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chairwoman, thank you for being here this morning. And just kind of curious, now that we have some non-banks that are banks, and Lehman Brothers has been absorbed by B of A, have you been in to examine that portion of B of A? Have you been in to examine the bank itself? Have you been in to examine like Goldman Sachs and those folks at all since this all took place?
We have, I cannot comment on specific institutions. I will tell you generally what we are doing, which is right now we have backup authority only for insured depository institutions. So activities outside of insured depository institutions, like investment banking, even though they might be part of a broader holding company structure, we have no authority there. That is the exclusive domain of the Federal Reserve Board.
Goldman Sachs is now a bank, is it not?
It is, no, because the insured depository institution is only a subsidiary of a larger bank holding company structure. Okay. This has been a problem for us. And another positive thing that we think the House bill does is gives us backup authority over everything in the holding company. Right now, it's only over the piece that has the deposit insurance, which is not the whole thing.
Do you think that there needs to be some ability to regulate and have some oversight over some of these off-balance sheet liabilities that a lot of these folks are involved with?
Absolutely. Yes.
What are your plans to do that?
Well, fortunately, the accountants have done a lot of it already. We are implementing FAS 166 and 167, which basically requires that these off-balance sheet exposures now be counted on balance sheet, so you have to hold capital and reserves against them. So we will be finalizing rules next week to make clear that you need to hold capital and reserves from the regulatory capital, that we will treat those as on-balance sheet assets. On the derivatives area, the OTC derivatives area, I think Congress needs to act on that. Because of the Commodity Futures Modernization Act, there is very little authority to provide product regulation or market regulation. And we've been working with the SEC and the CFTC to strengthen that, and we're generally supportive of that.
Okay. You made a statement a while ago that all our banks are in great shape, yet this last year or two here, we've had almost a record number of bank failures within a short period of time. Right.
I don't
Where do you
know
see
that
this going? How many more failures do you anticipate over the next year or 2 years?
I would not say. I think most banks continue to be profitable, but there are clearly some under distress. And we do not publicly release our fail bank projections, but it will continue to go up. We think it will peak next year.
Okay, but your comment earlier was also with regards to a lot of small banks are having to absorb some of these. They're part of the ripple effect of some of the big guys here and are certainly under stress at this point. Do you have any plans for some forbearance for those folks to allow them to be able to withstand this and to outlive some of these problems so that they're not going to be closed as a result of some of the actions of some of the big guys? And while we had forbearance with the big folks and helped them get over this, we don't have TARP funds available for the small guys. And if we don't have some forbearance for those folks, they're the ones who are going to suffer disproportionately compared to what the other folks is. And while it may not be a big deal to the folks who are concerned with B of A, it certainly is going to impact a lot of community banks in my district and a lot of small districts around this country.
Well, Congressman, by statute, if a bank becomes insolvent or can no longer meet its liquidity demands, it needs to be closed. There's a very well-defined prompt corrective action procedure in the statute. We cannot provide open bank assistance unless there is a systemic risk, and then only if the Fed and the Treasury and the President agree. So by statute, we cannot provide that.
With all due respect, Madam Chair, my question, though, is are you going to have some forbearance on those folks because of the unusual circumstance that they find themselves in through no fault of their own, only being a participant in investing in some things that wound up getting them in trouble? And they don't have the opportunity, like you just said, for some of the TARP funds, things like this. Is there willingness on your part to look at these situations on a case-by-case basis and say, hey, the rest of the bank has been profitable, it's been under good management, that just this one area is a problem, and therefore we are going to deal with this and work with them on this and not close them down as a result of that? Is there a willingness to look at that situation?
There is. We have done that already. I think we released and were able to get interagency agreement on some guidelines recently that explicitly allow banks to do loan restructurings with the commercial real estate loans. It needs to be disclosed and well documented, and only if you have a credit-worthy borrower to continue to make payments on a restructured loan. We've tried to do that already. I guess my only point is, though, Congressman, once the institution no longer becomes viable under the statutory criteria, there is no flexibility to provide forbearance. And I think these rules were put in place after the S&L crisis, where it found there's forbearance and there's forbearance. And sometimes if forbearance just denies the problem that exists and delays the closing, it will end up costing the government more money, which is what happened during the S&L days. So we do need to be careful. But absolutely, for the healthier institutions that can make it, we are trying to give them flexibility to work these loans out.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.